7 p.m. Thursday, May 16th, here in Seoul.
Coming up on NEWSCENTER tonight. President Trump is due in Seoul next month for another summit with President Moon. High on the agenda, ways to get the stalled nuclear talks with North Korea back on track.
South Korean car makers breathe a sigh of relief as reports suggest the US is delaying its new tariffs on auto imports. To top it off, Korea may even be exempt when the tariffs take effect.
South Korea's economic growth is projected to slow even further due to sluggish productivity. This, according to the Korea Development Institute.
And tensions between the prosecution and police intensify as Prosecutor General Moon Moo-il again lashes out at bills aimed at redistributing investigative power. NEWSCENTER begins now.
Good evening and welcome to Arirang NEWSCENTER. I'm Han-dan in Seoul.
And I'm Yonhap. Thank you as always for joining us this evening. Now let's begin with our top story this evening. US President Donald Trump will be making his second visit to Seoul in the coming weeks for talks with President Moon Jae-in. The main focus of their discussions will likely be getting the stalled nuclear talks with North Korea back on track.
We begin with our Shin Se-min with more on the upcoming summit, which will take place in less than 3 months since their last face-to-face in Washington.
The leaders of South Korea and the U.S. are set for another sit-down next month as nuclear talks between Pyongyang and Washington remain stalled. South Korea's presidential office on Thursday announcing U.S. President Donald Trump's visit to Seoul.
The leaders of South Korea and the U.S. will discuss the nuclear negotiations with the spirit of close cooperation, as well as ways to strengthen their bilateral alliance.
The White House also confirmed President Trump's visit during his trip to Asia for the G20 summit in Japan and said the leaders will continue their close coordination on efforts to achieve the final, fully verified denuclearization of North Korea. President Trump's detailed schedule, however, believed to be still in the works, an indication that it's still unclear whether Trump will visit Seoul before or after the G20 summit in Osaka, a meeting that's scheduled for 2 days from June 28th. And outlooks vary on what the outcome of what will be the 8th Moon-Trump summit could be, given the turn of events on the Korean peninsula in recent weeks, including Pyongyang's test firing of missiles and projectiles. Despite growing anticipation that the summit may help speed up nuclear negotiations between North Korea and the U.S., watchers weren't so optimistic of the meeting serving as a major breakthrough in the current situation on the Korean peninsula.
South Korean government is thinking to make some kinds of more positive incentives between two leaders, President Trump and Moon Jae-in, vis-a-vis North Korea. But I'm not sure if the kinds of positive incentives would be possible at the summit meeting. Maybe food aid, which is provided to North Korea for the purpose of humanitarian aid.
However, there's hope the meeting could have a positive impact on relations between Seoul and Pyongyang.
By having the summit with the President Trump, that South Korean government expected it can expedite discussion and all the conversation with North Korea.
On top of the highly anticipated and prospective agenda of denuclearization, next month's Moon-Trump summit looks set to include other issues concerning the allies, namely the defense cost sharing and the issue of tariffs. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
President Moon Jae-in, meanwhile, has called for more drastic financial measures in areas where people have not been able to feel improvements in their quality of life. President Moon chaired a top-level finance strategy meeting this afternoon for the third time under his administration to discuss financial strategies for the future. He emphasized the need to actively address the issue of employment and social safety nets. Here's what the president said.
지금의 상황은 저성장과 양극화, 일자리, 저출산 고령화 등 우리 사회의 구조적 문제 해결이 매우 시급합니다. 재정의 과감한 역할이 어느 때보다 요구되는 시점입니다. 지금 재정이 적극적으로 대응하지 않는다면 가까운 미래에 오히려 더 큰 비용을 지불하게 될 것입니다.
The president reiterated the need to get Parliament working normally again, saying that the longer the extra budget plan is delayed, the less effective it'll be. Today's meeting brought together the entire cabinet, including Prime Minister Lee Na-kyun and Finance Minister Hong Nam-ki, as well as officials from major economic organizations and the Blue House. It was held for the first time at Sejong City to cement its position as the center of administration. A report by a top government think tank shows Korea's economic growth could slow down even further due to stalled productivity and slowing population growth. Here's Arirang's chief economic correspondent, Kim Hae-sung.
The Korea Development Institute says that at the current level of productivity, South Korea's average economic growth could slow to 1.7% a year during the next decade. In its report released on Thursday, the KDI said Korea's economic growth slowed from an annual average growth rate of 4.4% in the 2000s to 3% between 2011 and 2018, mainly due to slowing total factor productivity. Total factor productivity reflects how efficiently inputs excluding labor and capital, such as technology, the legal system, and resource distribution, are used in the production process. But total factor productivity's contribution to Korea's GDP growth has more than halved from 1.6 percentage points in the 2000s to 0.7 percentage points between 2011 and 2018. And labor productivity's contribution to GDP growth is forecast to fall from 0.8 percentage points between 2011 and 2018 to 0.2 percentage points in the 2020s due to the shrinking working age population. The think tank said it is critical that industry succeeds in improving productivity through technological innovation and deregulation in the long run to boost total factor productivity rather than short-term measures like an expansionary fiscal policy. If total factor productivity is raised to 1.2 percentage points, the KDI says the contribution of capital productivity can go up and help lift Korea's annual average GDP growth to 2.4% for the 2020s. Kim Hae-sung, Arirang News.
Some relief on the horizon for South Korean automakers. Reports say the U.S. plans to delay new tariffs on cars by up to 6 months. And furthermore, they say South Korea is one of the countries that'll be exempted from the new tariffs. Our Ko Ryun-hee reports.
The Trump administration has been reviewing tariffs of up to 25% on imported vehicles like those from South Korea, citing job losses and negative effects on the domestic auto industry. President Trump was supposed to make a decision on this issue by May 18th. And South Korean car makers are breathing a sigh of relief after Bloomberg reported that the U.S. not only plans to postpone the decision, but also exempt South Korea from any future tariffs. Bloomberg cited a draft executive order and said South Korea, Canada, and Mexico are exempt from the new levies. The revised Seoul-Washington Free Trade Agreement came into force in January. And analysts say this might have settled the possible trade disputes in advance. The South Korean government is taking a cautious stance towards the issue. Deputy Minister for Trade Kim Yong-le said on Thursday that the news itself isn't bad, but emphasized that Korea should wait until the U.S. government's official announcement. Korean officials have been continuously expressing the nation's stance on auto tariffs to the U.S. For instance, Seoul's Trade Minister Yoo Myung-hee met with U.S. officials this week in Washington, calling for an exemption from the potential tariffs. The situation is similar for Canada and Mexico because the two countries renegotiated the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA, and are preparing for a new United States-Mexico-Canada agreement. Meanwhile, Bloomberg added President Trump will give the European Union and Japan 180 days to agree to a deal that would limit or restrict auto imports into the U.S. An expert in the field explained the reason behind the decision.
Now that the U.S.-China trade friction is entering a new phase, President Trump may decide on auto tariffs as he looks at the progress of negotiations with China. I think he strategically delayed the tariff decision.
If the Trump administration goes through with the auto tariffs, the U.S. could face fresh global trade clashes, because the EU has already prepared the list of retaliatory duties. 고르니, Arirang News.
Now to the latest on Korea's judiciary reform controversy. Prosecution Chief Moon Moo-il has publicly expressed his discontent over investigative power reform bills fast-tracked at the National Assembly. Moon also announced internal measures to reform the prosecution. Yoon Jung-min with the details.
South Korea's chief prosecutor Moon Moo-il has reiterated on Thursday that he opposes the latest investigative power reform bills, claiming they don't match with democratic principles and could encroach on basic rights.
The bills designated as fast-track bills at the National Assembly do not coincide with the democratic principles within the criminal justice system, and they may leave a loophole in the protection of basic rights.
The reform bills that were put on fast track at the National Assembly last month would give police the authority to close investigations and remove the prosecution's authority to control police investigations. Under the current law, prosecutors have the authority to close investigations, indict suspects, and seek arrest warrants. Prosecutors have been expressing discontent over the reform bills, claiming their voices were not heard when lawmakers were planning to redistribute investigative power between police and the prosecution. At Thursday's press conference, Moon said the prosecution is reflecting on criticisms that it failed to maintain neutrality in some politically sensitive cases. The chief prosecutor vowed to make systematic changes to the ways the prosecution handles investigations to build public trust. He said the prosecution will scale down and decentralize its monopolistic investigative power, adding that it's currently working on splitting powers regarding criminal investigations into certain matters, such as narcotics and tax evasion. Also, he said it will expand measures to request for reprobes into closed cases. The power struggle between the two investigative agencies is escalating. On Wednesday, prosecutors detained a former police chief for allegedly intervening in elections during the previous Park Geun-hye administration. Police also have launched an investigation over current and former high-level prosecutors, including the former prosecutor chief for an alleged dereliction of duty. On the same day, police criticized Moon Moo-il's claims, arguing the reform bill is one of the key agenda of the current government. Earlier this week, Police Chief Min Kam-ryuk also publicly announced he supports the reform bills, saying the public is calling for a redistribution of power to root out irregularities. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
The top nuclear envoys of the US and Russia have reaffirmed their shared goal of North Korea's complete denuclearization. This came after their phone talks on Wednesday. Lee Seung-jae has the details.
U.S. Special Representative for North Korea Stephen Biegun and Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Igor Morgulov held their phone conversation Wednesday as part of continued U.S.-Russia discussions on their shared goal of the denuclearization of North Korea, including on the need to maintain full implementation and enforcement of existing sanctions until the final, fully verified denuclearization of North Korea is achieved. According to Russia's foreign ministry, the two sides also discussed ways to further promote the political and diplomatic process. The conversation comes as Washington and Moscow have shown gaps in their view of how denuclearization should be achieved. The U.S. insists on continuing pressure through sanctions, while Moscow advocates an easing of the sanctions in exchange for denuclearization steps. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who held a near 2-hour-long meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin on Tuesday, says they spoke at length about North Korea after Putin held a summit last month with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in Vladivostok. The top U.S. diplomat added the United States and Russia share the same goals on North Korea and hopes the two sides can find ways that work for everyone. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
North Korea appears to still be trying to evade international sanctions on coal shipments, despite the US seizing a North Korean cargo ship for such violations. Analyzing satellite images, Voice of America reports that 2 large cargo ships were seen Sunday at the North's Nampo Port, one of the regime's main coal-loading docks, adding they were gone by Tuesday. The report says at least 7 cargo ships have come in and out of Nampo over the past month. The panel of experts at the UN Security Council reports that despite sanctions, North Korea has increased the number of ship-to-ship transfers of coal and oil. US Forces Korea has reportedly suggested South Korea relocate the Combined Forces Command to Camp Humphreys in Pyeongtaek, south of Seoul. Citing a government source, Seoul-based Yonhap News reported today that the USFK preferred the Pyeongtaek base to Seoul's Yongsan compound due to lower housing fees for military personnel and their families. Lack of communication between the two countries is being cited as one of the main drawbacks to the suggested plan. Seoul's Defense Ministry has neither confirmed nor denied the report, saying the relocation plan in question is one of the many options being discussed since last year. Excavators in the demilitarized zone have found what they think are complete remains of a South Korean soldier who died in one of the fiercest battles of the Korean War. Seoul's Defense Ministry says items found near the body appeared to be the soldier's personal effects, including a rank badge, a steel helmet and a canteen. The body was found at Arrowhead Ridge, where a project began last month to excavate the area and remove landmines. The remains will be identified through a detailed examination and DNA analysis. In other news, President Trump has issued an executive order banning American companies from using foreign-made technology deemed to be a national security threat. Effectively, he's banned them from buying from the Chinese telecom giant Huawei. Cha Sang-mi reports.
Amid failed trade negotiations between Washington and Beijing, U.S. President Donald Trump signed an executive order Wednesday local time, barring U.S. companies from using foreign-made telecoms equipment that could pose a threat to national security. The order is aimed at protecting America from what it calls foreign adversaries, who are actively and increasingly creating and exploiting vulnerabilities in information and telecommunication technology infrastructure and services in the United States. It bans transactions posing an unacceptable risk to the national security, but did not directly point to any nation. However, shortly after it was issued, the Commerce Department added Huawei to its so-called entity list of 70 affiliates, meaning the Chinese tech giant would require U.S. government approval in order to purchase American technology. U.S. Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross defended Trump's order, saying the move will prevent American technology from being used by foreign-owned entities in ways that potentially undermine U.S. national security or foreign policy interests. Officials from the Commerce Department said they will write the rules for reviewing transactions over the next 150 days to back up the order. Huawei responded to the move by saying restricting Huawei from doing business will not make the U.S. more secure or stronger. The move comes as the Trump administration has been lobbying other countries not to use Huawei's 5G equipment amid U.S.-China trade tensions. Huawei's finance chief Meng Wanzhou has also been detained in Canada since December, accused of breaching U.S. sanctions on Iran. Cha Sang-mi, Arirang News.
Now, the process of recycling human fat for medicinal or beauty-related purposes was first invented here in South Korea, but the country is still struggling to use that achievement to further nurture the biohealth industry. Our Kim Da-mi explains.
Every year in South Korea, 200 tons of fat left over from operations like liposuction become medical waste. Although it's deemed waste, the fat is actually sought after by cosmetic companies and for medical purposes for active ingredients like collagen and extracellular matrix, which can be used for tissue engineering and regenerative medicine. Recognizing the biohealth industry as the next promising sector of the economy, the Ministry of Food and Drug Safety said on Wednesday that the government will soon lay out a comprehensive plan for innovation focused on R&D and deregulation. Unlike the U.S., South Korea's current laws mean medical waste, with the exception of placenta, can only be used for research purposes and cannot be commercialized, limiting the advance of this potential sector.
For instance, registering human fat for medicinal purposes could take years, while overseas competitors may develop their own technologies and take over the market.
Recycling and reusing the 200 tons of fat could add $18 billion worth of value in the biohealth market. Another area with a lot of potential value is repurposing old teeth. Those that would have been thrown away, like wisdom teeth, can be used for bone grafts. It's a procedure that was invented 11 years ago in South Korea, but doctors are only allowed to use the teeth of the patients themselves. That goes for dental implants too, which is why so many teeth go to waste and doctors have to find alternatives.
For dental implants, as of 2017, 80% of them are made from cow bones. But if we use human teeth, especially our own or those of others, it'd be much safer and effective because human teeth are made of almost the same stuff as our bones.
Predicted to reach a global market size of up to $10 trillion by 2022, South Korea's biohealth industry can further serve the interests of the country's rapidly aging society, as well as provide opportunities for job creation. Kim Da-mi, Arirang News.
For the first time in 3 years, a South Korean singer took to the stage in Beijing. The Chinese government had banned all K-pop performances in China after Seoul deployed the US missile defense system THAAD. But it seems Beijing might be relenting. Kim Yo-sun has more.
World-famous K-pop singer Rain was invited to perform at the Asian Culture Carnival held in Beijing on Wednesday evening on the sidelines of the Conference on Dialogue of Asian Civilizations. It is being seen as a sign China could be lifting its ban on South Korean contents that was imposed in 2016 following Seoul's deployment of the THAAD missile defense system. This is the first time a Korean celebrity has taken to the stage to perform at an official event since then. Rain performed side by side with Singapore's Lin Junjie, a famous singer in mainland China. The event drew over 30,000 people, including high-level Chinese government officials and various international delegations. It was also televised live on China Central Television. Chinese President Xi Jinping also attended the event, stressing in his congratulatory speech that Beijing can contribute to making a beautiful future together with Asia and the rest of the world. The fact a K-pop star took part in a large-scale event in Beijing could have significant meaning going forward. Analysts also predict that with the Chinese leader's possible visit to Seoul before the end of the year, K-pop stars could be able to perform in China again. Kim Yo-sun, Arirang News.
South Korea's speed skating hero Lee Sang-hwa has hung up her skates, putting an end to her decorated legacy. At her retirement press conference today, Lee thanked everyone who supported her, reaching her 3 goals of winning a skating World Cup, an Olympic gold medal, and setting a world record. Lee joined Team Korea aged just 15 and is a 2-time 500 meters Olympic champion. She's also the current world record holder in the same distance. Korean culture, like K-pop and cuisine, is drawing a rising number of foreign visitors to the country. It can be tough sometimes if you don't speak the language, but for almost 20 years, there's been an interpretation service by phone and nowadays by smartphone app. Our Won Jung-hwan has the story.
What if you aren't fluent in Korean, but you still need to arrange a contract in a local mobile phone service center?
Yeah, I would like to make a contract with this company of mobile phones because I would like to have a free calls and unlimited giga.
Okay, and do you have the ARG card with you?
Yeah.
Okay, can you give this phone back to a Korean man, please?
When a speaker is struggling to understand the language, they can dial BBB Korea to ask for an interpretation through a device everyone carries, a mobile phone. From asking for directions to getting medical information in emergencies, the volunteers of BBB deliver important messages in real time 24 hours a day. A person who is currently in charge of running the service explains how BBB Korea has been helping people for more than 17 years.
We have some guidelines in which we block people who intend to use our service for their own profit. Our existence is purely for the people who need urgent help, and for those who cannot afford an interpretation in real time due to cost or situation.
According to BBB, a call is received every 10 minutes. Over the course of a year, more than 100,000 calls are fielded by over 4,500 volunteers who can speak 20 languages. Since 2013, a smartphone application has also been available. The combination of digital technology with analog sensibility is what led BBB here today. By incorporating technology with the knowledge and thoughtful minds of the volunteers, BBB has been able to create a bridge to connect speakers of different languages in Korea. 원정환, 아리랑 뉴스.
Pathways and forests surrounding 8 royal tombs located in Seoul and Gyeonggi-do province opened to the public today. Our Lee Min-sun went to one of the forests and files this report.
Donggureung, located in Guri, Gyeonggi-do province, is a cluster of Joseon Dynasty royal tombs and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And from Thursday, the pathways in the forest surrounding the largest cluster of royal tombs will be reopened to the public. The Cultural Heritage Administration has reopened the pathways in 8 forests surrounding tombs in Seoul and Gyeonggi-do province, and they will stay open until October 31st. People can take a break from the noise and pollution of the city and enjoy the fresh air while walking through the forest. At the end of the trail in Donggureung is a tree nursery and a shelter for people to rest and read books while enjoying the scenery.
I often come to the tombs because I live nearby. I came to see the forest path on opening day. I like the smell of the forest and the path seemed to be well made.
Some of the original 5 forest pathways have been opened in the past, while 3 entirely new pathways were added in Namyangju and Paju following major maintenance work by the administration. Also, to mark the 10th anniversary of 40 tombs being designated as UNESCO World Heritage Sites, various cultural events like concert and painting contests are scheduled to take place. To access the events, visitors must buy an admission ticket to the royal tombs. Lee Min-sun, Arirang News, Guri.
South Korean car makers increased their production and exports last month. Trade Ministry data shows 372,000 cars were made in April, an on-month jump of 5%. Exports, meanwhile, increased 3% on year, thanks to solid sales in North America and Europe. US Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin says he will likely go to Beijing soon to continue stalled trade talks between the US and China. At a congressional hearing on Wednesday, Mnuchin said the most recent talks with Chinese officials in Washington were constructive, but that there is still a lot of work to do before reaching a deal. He didn't exactly say when he'll be going to China, but analysts predict the trip will come ahead of President Trump's meeting with President Xi during next month's G20 summit. A sculpture by American artist Jeff Koons is sold for just over $91 million at an auction in New York, breaking the record for a work by a living artist. The steel cast of an inflatable rabbit broke the previous record set by British artist David Hockney in November. The buyer was in the audience for the auction but has not been named. Paris is celebrating the 130th birthday of the Eiffel Tower, marking the anniversary with a nighttime laser show. The 12-minute shows will run through Friday, recounting the monument's history. The Eiffel Tower was completed in 1889 and opened to the public as part of the World Fair. That has been your 3-minute news flash. It is that time now to take a look at some of the digital media content available on Arirang's social media platforms.
And today we'll be looking at a social enterprise that employs people from all backgrounds. Take a look.
매직북스는 어린이 역사 교재를 주로 만드는 회사인데요. 이 사회적 기업의 목적 사업에 제가 하는 이 아이템이 부합해요. 저소득 근로자를 고용해서 하는 거라든지 장애인을 채용한다는 게 제가 그동안 해왔던 이 특수교사의 이 업무하고 연관되는 부분이 많이 있어요. 취약계층을 고용하고 약자를 고용을 해서 이제 기업을 운영을 한다는 게 국가적으로는 가치가 있는 일이고 정말 의미가 있는 일인데 저희도 민간 기업하고 경쟁을 해요. 이 민간 기업하고 경쟁에서는 속도가 생명이고 또 정확성이 생명인데 저희한테서 이제 근무하는 근로자들은 이런 게 조금 일반인보다 떨어져요. 근데 이거는 이제 제가 감수하고 가야 하는 거고 또 사회적 기업으로서 이 길을 갈 때는 제가 일반 기업의 대표자보다는 조금 더 노고가 있어야지만 성공할 수 있다고 생각하고 이건 감수하고 있습니다.
안녕하세요. 저는 매직북스에서 근무하고 있는 안지호입니다. 제가 여기서 주도하는 일은 호일을 넣거나 아니면 이제 제품을 이제 만들거나 제품을 포장하거나 영상을 만드는 거예요. 우선 가장 좋은 거는 돈을 벌 수 있다는 거죠. 돈을 이제 충분히 벌 수 있다는 거. 사실 여기 들어오기 이전에 저는 아주 직장들 많이 이제 찾아보고 했어요. 뭐 정말 이제 안 구해진다면 뭐 적성에 맞지 않는다고 해도 그래도 어떻게든 구할까 생각했는데 어쩌다 제가 여기를 이제 알게 되었고 여기로 들어와서 이제 처음 일해보기 시작했을 때 의외로 저의 이제 적성에 맞는다는 느낌이 이제 강했거든요. 그래서 여기 일하는 걸 결정했어요. 무엇보다도 좋은 거는 일을 하게 됨으로써 시간을 이제 보내는 때가 정해짐으로써 그의 시간이 잘 보내지고 뭐 학창 시절과는 달리 직장은 일단 시간도 보내고 돈도 벌고 하는 거니까 말 그대로 이제 2배로 더 좋은 느낌.
처음에 왔을 때는 진짜 약하고 부족한 사람들이었는데 지금은 그렇지 않아요. 또 지금 열심히 하고 또 최선을 다해서 하는 모습에서 이제 서로가 서로를 안고 가고 있습니다. 저희 근로자들이 여기서 역량을 강화해서 정말 최고의 자기 분야에서 전문가가 될 수 있도록 또 제가 많이 교육도 하고 또 근로자들을 또 발전시켜서 저희 기업이 최고의 사회적 기업이 되는 게 저의 꿈이고 목표입니다.
High temperatures continued throughout the day.
Yes, and the unseasonably hot weather is expected to last a couple of more days. Let's get more from our Michelle Park at the Weather Centre. Michelle.
Hi guys, now I was exhausted from the heat after being just out for a few minutes. Now many regions recorded their highest temperature so far this year. And as of 3 p.m. Korea time, Seoul marked 30 degrees Celsius, even hotter than yesterday. And Gwangju was sweltering hot again today with the heat wave advisory issued until 4 p.m. And tomorrow will be cloudy, giving us some much-needed shade from the sun. And into the afternoon, a band of showers will affect over in Jeju Island. And although Beijing remains under cloud cover, temperatures are expected to stay in the 30s. The lows are on the milder side now, but I suggest a light coat for the morning as the mercury drops into the teens for most parts. So we'll kick off to 17 degrees Celsius. Daytime highs will generally be lower than today, but still considered hot temperatures. Now Seoul will reach up to 29 degrees. Summer weather will continue into the weekend, but cool down on Monday with showers expected nationwide. I'll leave you with the weather conditions around the world.
That will do it for this edition of Arirang News. Thank you as always for watching.
Stay tuned to Arirang for more analysis on current issues on News in Depth coming up next.